May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be aligned with your love, O God, our strength, our courage, our freedom, and our abundant life. Amen. I hope you will indulge a story about my mother today. Although it is tempting to put my mother in stained glass sainthood now that she has passed on. On one level, she was a saint, but she was also a real human being. My mother was far from perfect, and she and I had some tough terrain to negotiate when I was growing up. She and my brother also had some rough expeditions as well. And as in every relational difficulty, each person plays a role both in the difficulty and in the resolution. And having said that, on this particular day, when we have a gospel lesson which ends with Jesus saying, "I have come that you may have life and have it abundantly," I have been thinking of the following notable theme that was present in every conversation I had with my mother the last few months of her life. I would call her from California to Georgia and ask her how she was doing. Now, it is important to note that in the last months of Mother's life, she was hospitalized twice for pneumonia. She suffered from chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD. Near the end, she required assistance with her breathing all the time. And yet, when I would ask her how her day was going, she consistently said something on the order of, "I'm having a great day." "Oh, really, Mother? What's so great about your day today?" And then she would list a few things that she had experienced that I have to confess, I normally take for granted. "The most beautiful birds were in the feeder today. My caregiver came and gave me a bath. I'm having this conversation with you, my firstborn son. I had a 45-minute telephone conversation with my sister. It's been a really great day." Now, there's no doubt that she had had a very active and fulfilling life as wife, mother, sibling in a large, loving family, and a dedicated public servant as a public school teacher for almost 4 decades. And she had had to gracefully put most of that aside. And yet there was a sense that life for her was really getting better and better. Now that's my sense of what Jesus mysteriously calls the abundant life. "I came that you might have life and have it to the full." St. Irenaeus in the 2nd century defined the glory of God as the human being fully alive. That certainly is a part of abundant life, being fully alive, to be sure. But I sense this morning that there's something else to this wonderfully mysterious term, abundant life. The phrase comes at the conclusion of this passage in John's Gospel about Jesus being the Good Shepherd. Now, today is the 4th Sunday in the Easter season, and each year this Sunday is called Good Shepherd Sunday because we always read a portion of the 10th chapter of John called the Good Shepherd chapter of John's Gospel. And Jesus has just spoken of the Good Shepherd providing safety for the sheep, and that they follow the Good Shepherd because the Good Shepherd knows each of them by name, and they each recognize the Good Shepherd's voice. This is in contrast to false shepherds who are thieves and robbers and whose voices are strange, those forces in life that try to steal us away from our safety and our true life. But the true shepherd is the one who leads the sheep to safely graze and then back into places of rest, all in safety. In my own study this year, in the spirituality of brain science. Now, those of you who are tired of my talking about brain science, just click off for about 5 minutes and I'll pull you back in a few minutes. But I've been having so much fun with this class. I have learned about a reality of neurofunctioning having to do with the sense of well-being. There is indeed a phenomenon studied and researched in neuroscience in which there is a rhythm of two minds flowing into a sense of a we. Such joining happens when we attune to the internal shifts in another person, as they attune to us and our two worlds become linked as one. I'm not talking about herd thinking, nor am I talking about codependent enmeshment. We're still talking about individuals, but individuals who sync up like a great parent syncing up with her or his child, and through facial expressions and tones of voice and gestures and postures, some so fleeting that they can be captured only on a slowed down recording, we come to resonate with one another. And the neuroscientists have measured this resonance. And the whole that we create together is truly larger than our individual identities. And we feel this resonance as a palpable sense of connection and aliveness. And this is what happens when our minds meet. We are more than who we are. This is what I think the writer of this morning's gospel lesson is trying to get across. In the case of each one of us, and not just us righteous people in this room, or people tuning in on the streaming, but everyone on the planet, there is a resonance between each of us and God. There is a sense of connection and aliveness in the mind and heart of God about each one of us. I'm not talking about some kind of anthropomorphic God. I'm talking about the God of the universe who has a mind and heart, and each one of us is alive in there. Now, my psychiatrist, neuroscience teacher continues. He writes, a patient of mine once described this vital connection as feeling felt by another person. We sense that our internal world is shared and that our mind is inside the other's mind. Now, I'm using this neuroscientific language to deepen what I think this gospel lesson is all about this morning. And what I'm trying to tell you is I believe that God feels us. And that we can feel felt by God when you and I avail ourselves of meaningful worship and contemplative moments. Now, here comes the warning. We're going to go a little deeper into neuroscience. Okay, y'all? You with me? All right. I'm going to act this out. You and I can live a life out of awareness of the good shepherdness of Jesus and of God. We can live a life unaware of the resonance between God and us. Because in order for this resonance to happen and for us to be aware of it between two or more persons, it is crucial that our nervous system become receptive on this hand, not reactive on this hand. The reactive state is rooted in the oldest of our three brains. All of us have three brains. And the oldest is the flight, fight, freeze brain, or our brain stem, sometimes called our reptilian brain. And when I am in that state, when all the blood in my head rushes down to that brain and can't get to my brain that I have in common with all other mammals or all other primates, all the blood is rushed down to this brain. It's just not possible to connect with another person. This brainstem automatically and swiftly reacts whenever I feel threatened, either physically or emotionally. And when our entire focus is on self-defense, no matter what we do, we cannot open ourselves enough to hear another person's words accurately. Our state of mind can turn even neutral comments, even well-intended comments, into fighting words, distorting what we hear to fit what we fear. Now, I know none of you all are guilty of that. You've seen it in other people. But it can happen even in you. Then on the other hand, not the reactive brain, but this other brain, we're receptive to a different branch of the brainstem system. When that becomes activated and the blood comes up into our mammalian brain, which helps us to care for one another and be playful and have relationships, the muscles and the vocal cords, the muscles of the face and the vocal cords relax, and blood pressure and heart rather normalize, and we become more open to experiencing what the other person wants to express. And a receptive state turns on our social engagement system that connects us to others. In a nutshell, receptivity is our experience for being safe and seen and soothed. And reactivity is our fight, flight, freeze survival reflex. Now, that you got that little lesson in John's gospel, there's a distinct effort to correct the distorted view of God given by the empire and its religious supporters. That distorted view of God is that God is out to punish us if we're not in the right group or if we do the wrong thing. What John's gospel in the Good Shepherd image is trying to teach us is that God is not a threatening God. God is the one who resonates with you and me and our journeys, and we can rest safely in this God, for this God knows each of us by name and knows the unique call that God has placed inside of us when God created us, and God is eager for grace to work uniquely in each one of us, helping us to be unique from everybody else and yet in cooperation with everybody else. And God is working to preserve all of that in us. And the call of life and the key to abundant life is to let this love, this belovedness, this grace-filled resonance be our home base, our emotional and spiritual headquarters, as a way of keeping us receptive, not reactive. And this resonance with God and with ourselves and with others is our center. And that is what is meant for us. Now let me shift over to Brother Buddha. Here's the Buddha's definition of abundant life, although Abundant life is not a Buddhist term, I get it. The Buddha said, in the end, only three things matter: how much you love, how gently you lived, and how gracefully you let go of things not meant for you. Yeah, that's the toughest one. How gracefully you let go of things not meant for you, that don't have your name on them. As I come to understand my own story, in which my mother is a central character, I'm coming to believe that the reason she could say that each day was great and that every day was getting better and better is because even though she had an amazing life, the here and now for her was abundant, not scarce, because all of her life she had gracefully let go of things not meant for her. She let go of scripts that she had for me. If I had complied with her scripts for me, I would not be in California. She let go of all sorts of scripts that she had for my brother. She let go of all sorts of life arrangements that no longer served her true self. And as a result, her life was getting better and better. Thomas Merton, my favorite spiritual teacher, said that the real freedom in life is to be able to come and go from that center of what is meant for you, and to do without anything that is not immediately connected to that center. Now, not everybody this morning in the world can say that life is getting better and better. I'm thinking with a broken heart this morning of the 276 Nigerian girls who were abducted from their school dormitory in the middle of the night, an unconscionable act committed by a terrorist group determined to keep those girls from getting an education. Grown men attempting to snuff out the aspirations of young girls, to quote First Lady Michelle Obama. So we have to say there is slavery, there is oppression, and there is evil in this world. So how does the abundant life and life getting better and better apply to that reality? Let me leave you with an idea and a thought from Albert Einstein. In 1950, Albert Einstein received a letter from a rabbi. The rabbi who had lost one of his two daughters to an accidental death. What wisdom could Einstein offer, the rabbi asked, to help him and to help his remaining daughter as she mourned her sister? And here's what Professor Einstein wrote. A human being is a part of the whole, called by us universe. Each human being is a part, limited by time and space, and human beings experience themselves, their thoughts and feelings, as something separated from the rest. But that's an optical delusion of our consciousness. We're not separated from the rest. That delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for just a few persons nearest to us. Our life task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. Nobody is able to achieve this completely, but the striving for such achievement is in itself a part of the liberation and a foundation for inner security, safety, well-being, the abundant life. So, in a world where 276 young girls can be kidnapped by terrorists, you and I are called not only to resonate with God and understand that God feels us, but you and I are called to be good shepherds to everyone else, and to understand that the answer to the world's problems is to turn the human race into the human family, for you and me to become the community of the Good Shepherd, not only in religion and relationships, but in our politics as well. Amen.